This is my daughter's 2003 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo. She was driving it last night and she called me and said that she was having some trouble. So I went over to get her in the car and see what was going on. Ended up with a tow home. The story as it goes, as she told me, she pulled out of a fast food joint onto a main road and basically lost power steering. And so she pulled into a service station very close by where she had pulled out, and she said when she stopped it, she got out and there was fluid on the ground. So she went back in, she turned off the car, and right when she turned off the car, she heard a noise, and then large amounts of fluid began to leak out. She popped the hood. I got there and evaluated it, and this is what we found. Her radiator ruptured right here. Apparently from the rust stains, I'm going to guess and predict that in fact it's been leaking for a time, and she has had to add fluid to her fluid reservoir. So apparently this has been leaking for a time. What caused power steering fluid to go out was the serpentine belt, which came off. So why did the serpentine belt come off, break? Could be just it's an old serpentine belt. That's an option. But as it turns out, in fact, it's this idler pulley will not turn a lick. So we have issues with serpentine belt, we have issues with idler pulley, we have issues with the coolant system. Hopefully, and I don't think it's a problem, but hopefully we did not overheat. When the serpentine belt came off, of course, also meant that the water pump also laid down and quit working. So but it was just very quickly after the belt went that she was able to shut the thing down, because she noted the power steering was out. So here we go. We're going to replace the two coolant hoses. They're pretty much original as far as we know, 250,000 miles. So we're going to replace those. We're going to replace the radiator. We're going to replace the idler pulley here, which will not turn at all. And we're going to replace the serpentine belt. We're going to break this into a couple of videos, one on the radiator and coolant system, one on the serpentine belt and idler pulley. And that's what we're going to do. Now to go get some parts. Well, we're going to work on the serpentine belt, tensioner pulley, all those goodies. Now most of you aren't going to have this kind of access if the only thing you're working on is your serpentine belt, but maybe hopefully this gives you a view of what you're dealing with while your hands are jammed down in between the shroud and the engine. We've taken out the radiator and the cowl, because we also have to replace the radiator on this job. But one thing I like to do is just check your pulleys in general, make sure that they turn good. Obviously I'm not going to turn the flywheel, but everything seems to be spinning good except for the idler pulley. Now the tensioner pulley, it's got a bunch of rubber on it from where the belt melted, and also it's got a little bit of side-to-side wobble. So I went ahead and picked up a new tensioner pulley, and we're going to put a new tensioner pulley on the tensioner pulley assembly. Alright, so quickly on the tensioner pulley, you've got a number T35 connector here. You need to pull this thing forward, and on the back of this one is a T40 bolt to replace this pulley. The old pulley was spinning but not in good shape. Also note, when you take out this T35, you pull this thing forward, be sure you bring the whole unit. Do not let it separate right here. Here's your spring tensioner. There's one end of the spring. If you let this come apart, you can have spring going everywhere. So when you pull this T35, grab hold to the entire pulley assembly. Pull it forward. Carefully remove this, keeping this together, and then put it back on. That's that. Now up the tensioner pulley, the idler pulley, which was here. We're going to get on that next. Alright, so what have we done? We got the idler pulley on, and we got the serpentine belt on. If you're looking for a belt pattern, you can't find it, Google you up a belt pattern, and it'll show you, or use the one you see right here. If you have air conditioning, this is the correct belt pattern for the 4-liter 2003 Jeep. A couple things. This idler pulley. Idler pulley is a Gates pulley, a Gates part number, and according to my major car parts retailer, this is the correct one. However, doesn't quite work right. So we actually ended up having to get a fender washer, which you see back here. We had to drill the hole size out a little bit. It was a 5/16 fender washer. We drilled the hole size out. Bottom line is, this bolt's pressing this washer, which is pressing the inner race of the bearing, and then there's a standoff here, and then a standoff is pressing the opposite side of the race. So it spins good. Can't spin it for you now, we got the belt on, but it works great. Idler pulley covered that, or the tensioner pulley rather covered that, and it's straightforward, but never simple. So Serpentine belt's on. You won't have this much room on your car if all you're doing is a Serpentine belt, but if you do, well, that's a lot easier. Thanks for watching.